Welcome, fellow heavy rock junkies. Thanks once again for joining us here on the Heavy Galaxy Show. Matt and John with you for another discussion episode today, and we're going to be featuring music videos as well today with some really good new bands as well as some really good not so new bands. We definitely want to obviously feature on the show a nice balance of both veteran and up and coming bands on the show. And I think what's great about this new revival of heavy rock, John, is that some of the progenitors of this newer wave of heavy rock. And when I mean newer heavy rock, I guess I'm talking about like early to mid 2000s in that range.
Progenitor, what a good SAT word you put out there.
Yeah, I mean, I did go to college, so I've got some 25-cent words in there.
In that post education that you originally got.
Oh yes. Oh yeah, of course. Big top, Harvard education right here. Not.
Oh
just
yeah. Ivy League.
Yeah, right in my dreams. But yeah, man, like I said though, it's what's cool is there's like I said, we'll get into one of those bands I'm talking about, one of those progenitors here, a little bit. But I mean, I know, John, you recently, you did something this past couple of weeks that I think I've never done in my entire life. You went to shows for 5 straight nights.
Yeah.
Including the Heavy Psych Sounds Fest in Joshua Tree. But yeah, man, tell us a bit about that marathon. I mean, Spring Chicken, dude. I mean, 5 nights in a row. That's impressive.
Hey, easy.
Oh, well, neither one of us is Spring Chicken, so
it's on the mind until
the body too.
Your body says, "What the fuck
exactly.
are you doing?" It was 5 straight days, man.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Moy, who's a local promoter, which I am always happy to support and tell as many people possible about his shows, particularly when he does, bands that I would feel are in our umbrella of sorts. So the first night saw Fever Dog, which nice. I've seen a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, they played the first Vegas show on one of my bills, opening up for Bramp York. I had him come over.
Oh, nice.
But anyways, they played with Tigers on Opium.
Wow. Okay.
All right. And so that started off this 5-night affair. And, not a great showing necessarily. It was a free show. It's tricky. It was down there on Fremont Street. So it was the Sand Dollar on Fremont Street. Have you been to that yet?
I've been to Fremont Street, sure. Mm-hmm.
No, the Sand Dollar.
Oh, no, I have not been there, no.
So it's a relatively new venue. Sand Dollar as a brand already has one in Spring Mountain, which is over in Chinatown.
Okay.
That's been there for like a decade plus, but it's real more blues and kind of the more organic 70s music in general.
Okay.
But they opened up this other one down on Fremont Street. And, I knew people there. Obviously, I knew most of the people that were there. And luckily, some musicians showed up. Mike Varney was down there. Stoney Curtis.
Oh, okay.
Damn. I forget what his name is. The guitarist from Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, okay.
Which has been a really good band. He helped backline a lot of the stuff. So it was a fun night. I went to bed relatively early, quite frankly. I didn't even stay. They had to do 2 sets each, Matt.
So 2 sets each? Wow. Jeez.
Yeah, the room had to be filled with music, part of the setup, for 4 hours.
Wow, okay.
So they did 4 sets of 40 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And I left because I'm just like, I got too much. You know what I mean? I know what's happening here. So the next night was at the other Sand Dollar, the smaller one, where a couple things happened.
No fisticuffs? Fisticuffs?
Well, I saw Spear Mother and I saw Kadabra. Now, first off, when I went there, the bartender was kind of a jerk off to me as soon as he saw me. I'm like, what the fuck? I haven't even had time to piss him off yet. And he lied to me and said we couldn't put a playlist I put together for the place for the show, which the other Sand Dollar had no problem. My tunes were blaring all night long at the other one. This one, the guy's like, no. we have our own playlist because, we're a blues bar. And I'm like, okay, it's, and I was like, all right. So I look over to my right and there's Touch Tunes. So.
Oh man, Touch Tunes. Good old Touch Tunes.
I got my beer and I went on Touch Tunes and I did not play a blues song because you know why? Fuck him. So I played Black Sabbath, like the song.
Well, it's blues based, right?
Yeah, but it's scares
I know.
It's like you can't even hear it at the beginning because there's like rain and people are just drinking and talking there. It's like, and you're like in Halloween all once. Yeah. And then I spent, God, who knows how much money I spent. And I just played music all night, despite it. But later on, some jackass that I know, complete douchebag, quite frankly. But he supports the scene and all that sometimes. But he would not leave me alone. He would not stop talking shit to me. And I think he dislikes that I'm so passionate about certain styles of music, of rock and roll. And he was telling me to get out of town and you're done. Don't do any more shows. I'm like, I'm really not doing any more shows. I did Planet Desert Rock. It's very successful, awesome. But other than that, I literally don't have a show. I'm not really planning on booking shows. If I do, it'll be just a few. So I'm not really doing it. Good. You need to get out of here. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Leave me alone. And he goes, see, you can't take criticism. That's always the problem. And I go, well, first off, you think I'm sitting at a bar trying to have a good time at a show and want to get criticized? Right now is not the good time.
That would take that.
Trying to have a good time, man. So he just kept doing it. Eventually, I kind of shout at him. I called him. I said, here's, you're giving me criticism. I got to give you some criticism. You're a fucking pussy. Like, you're a fucking pussy. And you know what? You're a douchebag, like a massive one, but your fucking hair, you're a douche. And I was like, get the fuck out of my face. And so he went away. I'm like, all right, cool. Later on, I'm up, and that was on a different side of the bar. So then I get towards the music, and I'm rocking out, watching Cadabra finishing up, hanging out with them earlier, super nice guys. And he comes up and starts yapping to me. Well, first he hugs me. He's like, hey, I love you and all that. I'm like, okay, you're a weird way of showing that. And he kept talking, like trying to charm me up. And then I go, okay. And then next but man, you got to stop with the shows. You got to get out of here, stop all that. I'm like, what in the fuck is wrong? I kept telling him, like, dude, just get out of my face. I don't want to do anything I don't want to do. What are you going to do? I'm like, just get out of here. Leave me the fuck alone. I'm warning you. And I had to keep doing it. Finally, it just, I had my head down. I'm thinking I closed my eyes. And I started thinking all these different options. I mean, one of them was walking away, but not really. I think of fight, flight, at that time it was more fight than flight.
Oh, man.
Instead of punching him, I just shoved him over some tables or some shit.
You shoved him on some tables, man. Good,
Yeah, on or even over one and then on the other. I don't know. And it's kind of slow motion. And so for whatever animal instinct, I walked over there as he's getting up. He'd already gotten up and he was kind of moving toward, and I just grabbed him by the jacket and threw him towards the door.
Nice.
I'm like, what is getting over me here? But yeah, you really shouldn't fuck with me that much. I don't know, man. So
you're not a small fry, dude. You're a tall guy, so you ain't like,
I'm not 12 pounds, 2.5. So I'm not small.
You fucked with the wrong guy. You know what I mean?
I just don't want to do it. But if you're a dick and you keep being a dick, even after warnings, then I think you got what's coming. I mean, he's lucky I didn't hit him, honestly. But let's get back to the music.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and they kicked me out. They yelled at me.
Oh, they kicked that, yeah.
Right. Shit. I'm like, okay. It was the same bartender that lied to me earlier. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. Time to go to bed anyways, because I got to drive tomorrow to Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
I drive to Joshua Tree. Me, Ryan Garney, and his brother Shay went to a pre-party in the desert, pre-party.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it was not a trailer park per se, or like anything. I mean, it was like house, but it was like sandy roads and shit. And I forget what the guy's name is. I think Eric Cook. And they do shows out of his garage.
Okay. Oh, interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so that was the Freaks.
Oh, nice.
Dolly's Mama. I caught them. I didn't catch the first band.
Okay.
And it was cold, man. Matt, it's cold in the
Oh,
desert.
yeah, it is.
It was cold,
Mm-hmm.
but something warmed it up a little bit. I don't know, like 3 or 4 songs into the Freaks, some chick, I kind of look over to the left behind their other percussionist, Tawny, and next to her was some chick standing up, and she got her top off. Like her boobs are just, thought that, and they weren't small. And
So you weren't thinking about the cold at all after that?
What?
I said you weren't thinking about the cold after that then. You know what I mean?
Well,
It warms you right up.
I'm moving a little closer to the stage, but there was only like a big line of people, like of guys lined up. Yeah, and she did that for a number of songs. And then eventually she disappeared. Then she showed back up. She had like a jacket on. But when you look closer, she didn't have anything else on. Like her boobs were still there and she had it like open. But then you look down and she didn't even have bottoms. So she was like butt ass, she just had a jacket.
Well, see, she wasn't cold. Obviously, right? Yeah, man. Unless she was on something, of course. But
yeah.
Wow.
And then 2 nights in Joshua Tree, for Heavy Psych Sounds Fest.
Yeah.
Now, you went to Heavy Psych Sounds Fest. Let's hear a little bit about yours, then I'll give you a little tidbit or two about it.
Yeah, well, what I wanted to do here is before we get into that, that is going to be one of our main segments here. We're going to recap, both the San Francisco and Joshua Tree festivals. Yeah, but what we want to do before we get into that, we are gonna play some music. But even before that, I just want to mention real quick, HeavyGalaxy.com is launching. By the time I think this comes out, it should be up and ready to go. It's our blog. It's got a radio station on there as well. Like I said, it's got news. It's got reviews. It's, like I said, it's just starting, but keep your eyes peeled on it. That's, of course, where you could find these shows as well will be posted on there. And so, yeah, we're really excited about that. HeavyGalaxy.com. Going to be launching, like I said, by the time this airs, so go ahead and check that out. But yeah, before we talk about the Heavy Psych Sounds Fest, let's get into a few tracks here. Like I said, one of the things we want to do on the show is play some videos and play some music. Video one we're going to play for you guys, as we were talking before, we're talking about those progenitors. There's no bigger progenitor than the band DOZER. Obviously, first album they got coming out in 15 years. It's been 15 years since, Beyond Colossal came out. It was 2008. Crazy. Can't believe it's been 15 years, man. But Drifting in the Endless Void is the name of the new record. And I just got to tell people, they're going to get a hint of it here if they haven't heard of it yet. But right now, this is at the top of my list, I think, of album. I'm pretty sure you've heard the record, right? So far? Yeah.
It's on my top 10 list, watch list already, for sure.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. So, yeah, we're going to start everyone here. Here's DOZER, Ex-Human Now Beast, right here on the Heavy Galaxy Show. All right, we're back here at the Heavy Galaxy Show. You just heard another great veteran band, GOZU, with their new track, Tom Cruise Control. That's coming. That's off their new album. Another band's coming out with a new record. I love all these, veteran bands coming out with these new records this year. That's their first single off their soon-to-be-released fifth LP, Remedy. Comes out May 19th on Blacklight Media, Metal Blade Records. GOZU, I love about those guys, too, is they're always the song titles, right? They're always like a TV show or a character of a TV show or a movie. They got some unique comical twist to their song titles, baby. What a great heavy rock band out of Boston, man. Great choice with that one there. Tom Cruise Control. Great shit.
This might even be their sixth release.
Is it? I think it might be. I mean,
it might be because I was looking at it just the other day, but I have notes around here somewhere. But they're one of the original bands back in like 2010 or 11, 12, something like that, when I was on Amazon Music looking around at used CDs, but then I also downloaded stuff. And as when it kind of popped, suggestions came into me with Rival Sons, Sasquatch, GOZU, Freedom Hawk were four that really, I went, whoa, there is music in this world that's better than the garbage we were getting. Like literally was an epiphany moment, and GOZU was one of them.
Very cool.
Since the beginning. I mean, they have a song like Signed Epstein's Mom, London Ping Show, something or other. Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah, Dragon Steamboat. Lorenzo Lamas,
Lorenzo Lamas. Yeah.
That's a great song, actually.
Tom Cruise Control is just amazing. I saw these guys live at Psycho Vegas, and it was
yeah. It's funny you say that. When they got signed to Blacklight Media, I remember because the guy who owns that label that runs it is, I think his name is Chris Santos. He's on one of those chef shows. He's a big chef in New York City. And I remember because my wife used to watch that show all the time, and I'd see him. And when I got wind that he saw them at a show in New York. I forget what show it was, but he showed up. He saw him, and he was blown away. And he's like, "I got to sign these guys." And so that's how they got signed too. It's funny because they're connected to Metal Blade, and you don't usually see a lot of heavy rock on Metal Blade. Metal Blade does, obviously they do switch it up a little bit here and there, but I know they're just being probably distributed by them.
This was it's a side deal.
Well, of course, it's a distribution sort of deal.
They're able to use the infrastructure, but the guy is supplying most of it. GOZU is an interesting one. They were on Small Stone early on. Very good. And they were on Ripple for an album. That was really good.
That's my favorite album by them.
Yeah.
Was it Revival or something? Is that the name of the record, I think?
Yeah, I think so. It was like a red with a guy.
Yeah. Great record. Yeah.
Great band. Good. They haven't played out West. Like almost ever. They don't really play a lot of shows, and when they do, they
East Coast mostly,
but or probably Europe.
Europe, you're right, exactly. But yeah,
we have that past and
but yeah,
those are great too, man. Tommy Jalapa is, I just think, one of the best guitarists out there. I think he knows how to make music sound good. And so he's a guitarist at DOZER and Greenleaf.
Yeah,
and the big man could I just think he knows how to write songs that the guitar really adds such greatness to it.
It is. It's so unique, just the tone, the sound. I mean, it's just, I don't know what it is about that band. There's just something about them that's just, they're phenomenal. You know what I mean? And like I said, and it's great to see, like I said, 15 years. I mean, what's crazy is, you've got all these veteran bands that are, I mean, that scene when DOZER was coming up in that scene, it wasn't as big as it is now. So it's like a lot of these bands, because they kind of broken up, maybe, or just kind of went on to do different things. They kind of missed out on this period now where everything is just, it's firing all cylinders, the heavy rock scene. And so I think it's great that they get, that they're getting back together, and they get to kind of get a little, enjoy the fruits of their labor for being one of the bands that helped start this whole scene. Which I think is cool.
They were at decent levels. I wasn't following back then, but I've done some checking out and stuff. I mean, they were on a split with Nebula, I believe.
Yes.
And that wasn't playing around back then. If you look at some of those splits, they were pretty amazing splits.
Oh yeah, man.
Of like
Oh,
really good bands. Like Lowrider was on one, and, you know, was Unita, I think, was on one. Anyways, I love to see them live. I know, you know, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. If they get over the States, I mean, we're such a big country, and they can't do all of it usually. So you're lucky if a band has 20 something shows on tour,
sure.
30. There's so many places in our country to play. It's 30 million people, and it's a long ways across. You know, I tell people, like, when you're driving in Europe, you're going country to country. That's almost like us driving state to state.
Yes, exactly.
And you know, we miss out on shows. We all do.
We do.
We miss out on some of the best stoner rock stuff around all the time.
No, you're right. No, you're right. And I think the thing is, that's why I think it's so important for these festivals, you know, to have these festivals, because, yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those things. Yeah, you might have to take a trip, you know, someplace, you know, in order to see those bands. But that's just the way it is these days. I mean, but, you know, like I said, it's the fact that we're able to get. I mean, look, you know, you got bands like Estate coming over, you know, from the UK. I mean, it's not easy. So the fact that we got, you know, well, yeah, well, I mean, they were on the John Garcia show, you know. I mean, bottom line is you got them over, you know, and it's pretty cool, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's important to have those festivals for that reason alone. Just one place where everyone can you know, just congregate and play, you know, just put on this great big music festival. I mean, there's nothing better than it. And so, speaking of that, just going into our main segment here, obviously, speaking of festivals, Heavy Psych Sounds Fest, as we were talking about before. You know, let's talk about that. You know, we both, like I said, I attended the one up here in San Francisco a few weeks ago. You were down in Joshua Tree. You know, obviously, much, you know, we've got one setting where I was at, urban setting. You're in the desert, much different settings. Obviously, there was a lot more that kind of happened a little bit down in Joshua Tree there than it did here in the Bay Area in terms of the amount of bands that played.
Well, how many stages did you have at yours, Matt?
Oh no, one stage.
And yeah. What was the well, how many people were there, I guess?
So it's held at this place called the Parkside, which, you know, last year when they had it there, it was outside. So right outside, there's a block right there that they closed off. They'd have a sort of a block party outside concert last year, which is, you know, I wasn't able to attend last year, but I heard it was really good. So that, you know, this year they scheduled it obviously in March, right? Well, March here in the Bay Area, it's freezing fucking cold, especially in San Francisco. So not the best probably idea to do it outside in San Francisco in March. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So they had to move it inside. Plus, it's been really bad weather, obviously, here, you know, this winter as well. So because of the cold, they moved it inside. And now anyone who's been to the Parkside in the Bay Area knows it's basically essentially, it's just a fucking dive bar. That's all it is. It's got it's got an outside with some tables and stuff like that where they serve some food, but it's really just a dive bar, you know. And it's funny because there's been a bunch of bands that have played there. Like, I remember the story. I didn't see it, but Monster, one of my friends saw it. Monster Magnet actually played at this place. And supposedly Dave Windorf was fucking furious. There's no backstage. The stage, you can barely fit the four. I don't know how a 5-piece band could fit on that stage. No. It's that tiny, man. So yeah, so that's unfortunately what happened. Was it got moved inside. Now, for the positive of it though, which was kind of cool, obviously, was it's very intimate in that way. The sounds, you know, it sounds great. You know, the crowd was really good. You know, I got to say, the one thing about the San Francisco crowd, since I've been here for 13 years, I'm not going to lie, it's not the most energetic crowd, okay? I think people are just just high as fuck, you know, most of the time to get moving. But I will say, this show, there was a lot of enthusiasm. I mean, the crowd was really into it. And it was a lot of fun, you know. But like I said, though, I felt that you know, a festival like this deserved a better setting. You know, I mean, Ripple Fest, for instance, the ones that were up here some years ago, they were played at the same place, the Parkside. Yeah, but different with Ripple Fest. It was just Ripple bands. You didn't have mega bands at the Ripple Fest. It was a little bit different. So, you know, like I said, it was a good time.
What was the biggest band that played up there?
So I would say that to me the biggest band was Atomic Bitchwax. You know what I mean? I guess it depends who you talk to. I mean, obviously it was the same bands that headlined down there. It was Windhand, the first night.
Oh, you did have Windhand.
Yeah, Windhand,
Okay.
yeah, and then Weed Eater, of course.
Cool.
And they headlined both the nights.
Okay.
But to me, I mean, I'm like I said, to me, Bitchwax is are the kings. To me, I mean, even just them playing. Because they play such a different style than most of those other bands do, obviously. And just their stage presence is just, really good. It's a lot better than, I'm not saying the other bands didn't have any stage presence, but just more energetic. You can see they're just vets, man. They're just wily vets. They've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
And they don't come out to the West Coast that often.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that was a good thing too, obviously. I mean, obviously it was some bands that first time they were out here too. I mean, GOZU was the first time they played out in California. But like I said, bottom line is, I went to both days. It was a good time. The crowd, I mean, it was a decent crowd. It wasn't great in
Over
terms
150 people.
Oh yeah. 200. You could probably say 150 to 200. It's probably a good estimation.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really feel, like I said, much more than that. This place too, it was pretty packed. But like I said, bottom line is, it was a good time. You know what I mean? I had a good time, but I definitely wish they would definitely do it next year. Maybe put it up in May and keep it outside, because supposedly last year the whole outside, it was mobbed. It was a huge crowd. So I think the weather had a lot to do with it. But yeah, so that's the recap and the general recap. Now, obviously the desert, I can imagine. I've been seeing things all online. Talk to me, man. I mean, just break it down. I know it was a badass time.
It was a cool time, and it was cold.
Yeah, sure.
So
March, man. Yeah.
No, man, March is never this cold out here. As far as I remember, Vegas has been cold. We had snow in the mountains just a couple days ago. It's fucking weird. Anyways, yeah, the desert is cold at night, even in May or whenever. I mean, the temperatures drop. So, but two venues on the same property, like the Joshua Tree Cultural Arts Center or something like that. And the outdoor one was, both stages are kind of like not up high. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Which is just, maybe I'm spoiled a little bit. So I like my stages up a little bit more, But the outdoor one was cool, particularly when you got at night, because they had like different strobes and stuff going on.
Very cool.
You're feeling a little even better during the night.
Sure.
But I mean, it was probably 300 to 400 people each day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. The indoor one I like the indoor one, first off, because it was warm. That's also where I caught 3 or 4 of my favorite sets.
Okay.
Atomic Bitchwax, Duel.
Yeah.
Love Gang killed it. Warlung. So all those guys. And then I saw at the very end, Fatso Jetson, which shifted into Mario Lally and the Rubber Snake Charmers.
Nice. Okay.
And at this point in time, I was, buzzing. Like, whoa, everyone was. Like, high as a kite, probably most people. And that Mario Lally thing, it's a wild little trip, dude. Sean Wheeler's like preaching off of some book.
Nice.
Taking his clothes off and stuff. It's quite the ride.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed Brant Bjork's set, which was outside.
Yeah. Kind
of as the sun was coming down. Mario's in the band now. Hippie Death Cold had a really good one. Death Chant. They had the Heshers up there moving and grooving.
Nice.
That was one of the first bands of the day. So
Very
yeah,
cool.
Death Chant, they go up there.
Yes, they played here as well. I think they were they believe the second band in the second day they played. Yes. Yeah. They played early.
Were you there in time?
I didn't get to see them. No, I got there just after they got on. They played. It was weird because the second day was kind of messed up a little bit. The lineup was a little. There was a band called Psychic Hit that played that wasn't listed anywhere, but I mean, they were on the poster here. I got to and everything, but I like I said, Mondo Generator backed out, so they didn't play.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people were expecting them to come. Brant was originally supposed to come. He didn't come. A lot of the bands just didn't make the trip, as we talked about too. It really is as cool as it was tough for those bands to drive from the desert up here in, after playing the show. I mean, and get there in time. It's tough, man. That was a hell of a travel for them,
I feel for those bands, particularly after the first show. They can almost not even, hang out or have a good time for very long because they got to get on the road, because it is not a short trip, folks. It's in the same state, but this state, for us, for the non-Americans,
it's huge.
A really tall state. Yep. Like literally, it covers a massive amount of coastline. The majority of coastline on our West Coast, and they're out in the desert, and then they got to go all the way over to San Fran. It's just a really long, grueling drive, and a lot of times they'll stop in, Bakersfield or Fresno or somewhere along the way. But the next night they get to blow it out if they still have energy, or else enough drugs. Keep going.
Too.
But I'll tell you, it was a fantastic time. A lot of, got to hang out with a lot of cool people that I've known over the years. I know from different shows that I'm on, or from Facebook, and got to hang out with them. And I thought that was really awesome. Really neat as well.
Yeah.
Once in a while, I me and some people talk, and I tell me, my name's John, and then I would tell like a story about the Doom and Stone show or some reference, and they would be like, "Oh, wait a minute, you're that John?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, So it was just, that was kind of wild, to see that at times. You're like, "Whoa, okay." But I tell you, the lead singer of Winand, she was super cool. Hung out, talked with her in the green room for a while. Dorothy. Yeah. I should ask her, how do you pronounce your name? But man, the whole thing was really, really good. I think people like the desert experience.
And well, it is, man. The experience is that much better. I mean, it's cool. Obviously, if there was an outdoor, festival here in the middle of San Francisco, that's really cool too. But I think with this kind of music, when you've got heavy psychedelic type of music too, it is, I mean, that's meant for that sort of setting, especially at night, like you said, in the desert, inebriated on your whatever your spirits.
I mean, it's literally,
it's fun. It's fun.
I mean, the show's not in the desert. It's in like almost like a parking lot.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but it's in it's in Joshua Tree. That's the desert. You know what I mean? It's the desert. So
it's part of this multiple town thing, and a lot of us got Airbnbs, and Mario and them, they hooked us up with one that was literally 3 minutes away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that pre-party sure wasn't.
Yeah.
That was
kind of a trek.
Like you'd go to some mountain and down another thing, and thank God I wasn't driving.
I was gonna say, right. I mean,
no, not me that night.
I
don't know. But it was all great.
Awesome.
There's some other good festivals coming up, but one festival that's not coming up is Psycho.
Yeah, and we're gonna definitely talk about that a little bit here. We want to talk about really just about festivals here in the U.S. and just really the heavy rock scenes, and how really a lot of these scenes now have a festival, which I think is important to really grow a scene. I mean, it is. I mean, just getting back to what we were talking about a little bit before. I mean, you just have to have one place where people can fly. Because let's be honest. I mean, a lot of these bands, look, no one's in their 20s and 30s, and even if they were, to be able to be a full-time musician, touring musician right now is extremely, extremely super difficult. So a lot of these bands, these are weekend, it's weekend. They're weekend bands. They play on the weekends, or they take, their vacation from their jobs and maybe do a week tour here or there. Or they go over to Europe or whatever it may be.
Well, I mean, some of these bands, they take weeks.
Well, some of them, yeah, sure.
I mean, it depends on what kind of style jobs they're in. They some of them have the capacity to do months at a time. I mean,
sure.
Eddie Glass doesn't work.
Well, I mean, like I said, but Eddie, like I said, he's been a musician for what, 30, 40 years, 30, so it's like he's been doing this a long, long time. I'm really referring to a lot of the, I guess, a lot of newer bands, like I'll just take a band like Warlung, for example, right? We had them on the show.
Right.
I got to hang out with those guys, had a great time too, meeting them. A band like that, though, yes, they're not going to probably be able to be, they all work. So it's like, it's tough for them to do what, Eddie can do, But I mean, most of these, like I said, but obviously bands like, Nebula or Atomic Bitchwax have been around since the 90s. They've got enough, experience. They already have their circles, everything set up. They could do it if they want. You know what I mean? There's enough people that know them and that love them that they can.
No, totally. You're 100%
yeah.
right.
Yeah. So
it's far and few between the people that are able to have a living, from rock and roll.
No, it is. It's extremely difficult these days. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it is. I mean, it's
one man's rival sons.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different discussion.
They're in a whole different league. I mean, they're opening for the Smashing Pumpkins, so if they're not even an underground band, not even close. So they've got they're making it big time right now.
The average person in rock and roll that listens still won't know them. That's how crazy.
No, they don't. But they, like I said, I mean, well, it's just like when like a band like Dirty Honey is the same kind of thing, right? And most regular people don't know who Dirty Honey is, but people
they do a little bit more of that.
Well, now they know them because they opened for the Black Crowes and they opened for Slash, and Guns N' Roses. So you open for those big bands, you're gonna get discovered. You get a bit noticed more. Obviously, Rival Sons will start to. I mean, I believe they will. There's no doubt.
I mean, they opened for Black Sabbath, so
there you go.
In the West.
Yeah,
but it's still they're not on FM radio.
I know what you mean.
Either one of those really are much.
No,
so it's a tough thing out there in all ways possible.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, and FM radio really isn't driving rock anymore, anyway, is it? Right? It's really just the internet. It's playlists, it's podcasts, it's all these things that are really keeping. It's Doomed and Stoned, stuff like that. That's where people are finding their new music now, rock music. They're not going on their radio. I mean, there's some cities that have I interviewed for Aftershocks. I interviewed Steve Zing, who's the bassist for Danzig. Okay, a couple weeks ago. He has another band that he put an album out, and he was saying it's like for instance in LA, LA actually does have a radio station that's pretty. They'll play a lot of new stuff, even up here to Bay Area. You've got to be veterans of the scene. But for instance, like a band I know you like a lot too, like I do, the Watchers, Tim Narducci's band, they've been played on there. They've been played on FM radio because, obviously they've got connections. They've been in the scene a long time. They'll play some of these newer bands, not consistently, of course, but if they have a show, they'll talk about, they've got a show, and so some cities do it. But once again, few and far between. It's going back to that, you remember years ago when on Sunday nights they used to have metal hour or something. That's kind of like rock now, heavy rock or any kind of metal, anything that's heavy. You're going to find all that new stuff more on a midnight show or online. You're just not going to get it during the day on FM radio. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. It's what it is.
Not right now. Maybe never.
Yeah, hopefully not. But in the meantime, you got the Heavy Galaxy show. You got all these other outlets you can find new music. Yes. And speaking of that, that'll lead us into our third video here. And we're going to bring up a new band. Band that I'm really digging big time. Speaking of Heavy Psych Sounds. Obviously, this is a band out of Birmingham, UK. Margarita WITCHSKULL. The track is Diabolical Influence. Man, I don't know. I mean, I know you've heard of these guys too. I'm a big fan. I'm really liking what they're doing on this record. They call themselves, I saw in their Bandcamp, they're labeled as Stadium Doom. What do you think that? What's Stadium Doom?
Yeah, I've been giving them a thorough enough listen to know if they fit Stadium Doom.
Yeah, but what is Stadium Doom? What is that?
That sounds pretty big.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I've heard some interesting monikers lately that bands give themselves. Yeah. Rough Magic, or no, Acid Magus call themselves like Doom Rock with shrooms or something weird.
Shroom rock? I mean, Doom Shroom. I mean,
yeah, it was like Doom and shrooms and some other word matched together, and I was like, that's kind of interesting.
That's interesting. That is very interesting. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's let the listeners and the viewers check it out for themselves. Here's some Stadium Doom. All right, Margarita WITCHSKULL here, Diabolical Influence on the Heavy Galaxy Show. All right, we're back here. The Heavy Galaxy Show with you, Matt and John. And you just heard Witch Skull. Man, this is a band that we both really, really dig. Breathing Blue Light, Australian stoner metal band. Man. They've got some new stuff I think getting ready to come out. Do they? I think, John, correct?
Yes. Yeah. All three releases have been exceptional. Their last one was my album of the year.
Oh, so, was? Oh, very cool.
Big believer in that, them. And yeah, in the works. I kind of get the feeling that by the end of the year it'll be out. Hope so.
That's awesome, man. You know, that's one of the things you want to talk about a scene, man. You know, Australia. You know, like when I interviewed some of these Australian bands in the past, man. You know, the one thing about, I mean, there's so much good music out of there, but it really is so difficult for those bands because where are you going to play? You know what I mean? You're stuck in Australia. I mean, there's not really many places you go. It's so hard for these bands to get. I mean, that's one of the toughest places to travel to, you know, is Australia. And yeah, man.
American bands love going down there.
Oh, yeah. Well, why wouldn't you, right? It's like, it's, you know, I mean, but it's hard to get down there. It's not easy. It's not cheap. It's expensive. It's but yeah, they have such a great scene. I mean, I could talk about some bands there, you know, all day.
We can do a whole show on it.
Pretty much. Oh, absolutely.
Like, there's no pretty much. We can do 2 segments.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Like, I mean, you know, like they're from WITCHSKULL's from Canberra. And where I think it's one of the only places down there where it's not illegal to possess marijuana. Just a little tidbit.
I didn't know that.
But you know, Melbourne, it's insane how many good bands are out of there. I mean, another album that's being mentioned as album of the year potentially is Khan's new one.
Okay.
Really good heavy psych. Like if you like King Buffalo and Elder and, you know, Weed Pecker. Yeah, Weed Pecker. That's the kind of band that check out. And 2 albums that are just really good they've done. The other one they did, instrumental, not my thing, but was good. But anyways, we go on and on about Melbourne. But WITCHSKULL, power trio, like you said, Matt, stoner metal.
Yes.
One of the few bands I will give that label to. I'll give that label to Wolftooth too a little bit.
Okay.
You know they are?
Yeah, I know Wolftooth is.
Like a heavier sword kind of.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, you know, anyone that's got that real, you know, I think it just depends on the tone, right? I mean, because, I mean, to me, you know, obviously, if you listen to WITCHSKULL, they're just obviously just a Black Sabbath oriented band. You know, it's not like it's anything that different from what we've heard before. But to me, it's just like anything. You know, it's not about, you know, the musicianship itself. It's just about the kind of sound you can get, the tone you can get out of your instruments. And I think with WITCHSKULL, to me, guitar and bass, it's just so just crunchy in your face. It's just, you know, like I said, that's where you get to me, the stoner metal part is just with the tone. You know what I mean? Just that crunchy, good old riff, or, you know, typical metal sort of, you know, tone. Where
it's a little bit faster pace. Stoner metal would be.
Yeah.
Listen, I'll tell you what I think about musicianship is it doesn't have to be technical and all that shit. You know, that's great. Those kind of musicians.
Yeah.
But the kind of musicians who can come up with a good song and come up with this riff and then leads to this and then understands this part, maybe the bass gets a little more attention or it gets its spot. That kind of musicianship, that artisticness, really makes a lot of this music so easy to love. And again, it's not about recreating the wheel necessarily.
Yeah.
It's about sounding good, but you still, I mean, they can say anyone can go and duplicate what all these the forefathers have done, but not everyone sounds as good as others.
Exactly.
Right. And so that's where people need to, you know, just some people are just going to shut it all out. Like that one joker on my fucking page, you know, everything's negative, not going to like it. You know, it sounds like this. And I'm like, well, so what?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, well, you need to be more original. I'm like, You're not. You know,
Yeah, well, I'm
it's
with you,
just
man.
funny.
Yeah, it doesn't. Not everything
Yeah.
has to be. I'm with you exactly, man. Not everything has to be original. I mean, it has to be original. I mean, if you think of some of the, if you look at the history of rock, heavy rock and metal, look at a band like, I mean, look at the bands that really have lasted and or just I mean, band like AC/DC, right? Look at the
Yeah.
simplicity of AC/DC. It has nothing to do with those are not the hardest, those are easy songs to play, but they're just great songs. You know what I mean? They're catchy. They've got hooks. That's the key.
Yeah.
You need hooks, in songs, and they've got it. Fu Manchu, one of the forefathers. I mean, talk about
Sure.
simplicity. They do it album after album after album, and it never gets old. It always
Yeah.
sounds good. And so, it's just about coming up. Why? Because, well, vocally, right? Scott sings. I mean, he's just got his own vocal approach. He's got his own sound. I mean, just the way they do it. It's just like I said. We can go on and on about bands like this, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
doesn't have to. You don't have to be. Like I said, you don't have to be like you just mentioned. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's just to me, you get good hooks. Your tone's a little bit unique. You've got your own unique, tone and sound. That's all you need. You don't need to be doing anything, And to me, Witch Skull is just a great example of that. A band that just
Yeah.
plays good old fashioned, stoner metal, as we said, along the lines of Sabbath. And like I said, you can't go wrong with any of those releases they put out. They're fantastic.
Like my two favorite songs on that album is Baphomet's
Yeah, Baphomet's Child. Yeah.
and Nero Order, where he gives out one of the most haunting and intense screams I have heard. And I'm a big fan of Marcus de Pasquale.
Oh, yeah.
He's also
Very
in
underrated.
Body, and then he was in, oh my God, Looking Glass, which Australian band that's like more heavy psych oriented.
Okay.
But man, the guy is the guitarist and the singer. He does not have that traditional, vocals. As Billy Goat once said, his vocals are almost a little bit vulnerable. I've never heard that in my life, and I've stuck with it ever since. But it's just Marcus doesn't sing, like John Garcia or
no, of course not.
Keith from Sasquatch or even Scott from Fu Manchu.
Yeah, sure. Well, March of Winter. That's one of my favorites on that record. That
great song.
I mean, that right in that riff, it just you just
put that in the car.
Oh God.
Car. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, I have
just sucks you right in. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Just go.
Yep. I agree. I totally agree, dude. Well, yeah, so I mean, getting back to, like I said, the festivals, right? We were talking about that, there's a lot of, when we mentioned this on the first, episode we did, the introduction episode about the heavy rock scenes in the US. And we talked about, I mean, they're all over the place, Texas and San Diego. And I mean, on the East Coast, you got, Philly, Delaware area. I mean, they're all over the place, and which is great. And what's kind of cool too is each scene, as we're seeing, they're really creating their own festivals now, which is great. Obviously, on the East Coast too, you've got the Maryland Doom Fest, you've got Ripple Fest, we said in Texas, Monolith on the Mesa, in New Mexico. Obviously, we did that. There's the Heavy Psych Sounds Fest. The Monolith on the Mesa. Okay, well, all right.
Nope.
Too bad.
They are having it go like Berg and the something or other in Albuquerque. Okay. Berg and the something that is kind of a substitute
all right, well,
for this year. But
all right, well,
right.
but they got a festival. Okay.
Been around
for a while. Yeah.
True, and there used to be one that before you and I even followed all this stuff, I think. I just recently heard about this one that was in Ohio that you go back and look at the lineups were chock full of it. And that was like 20 years ago, even. It's crazy. Oh, okay. So I think it's always been there, but it's more palatable and easy right now to at least come up with it, whether it's successful or not. And I think that a certain festival is really, stood out among all that.
Mm-hmm. And that would be?
Don't you think? You don't think that there's for our thing, Psycho Vegas has been the standard for like
sure. Mm-hmm.
Like what is even close to that?
It's hard to duplicate, and we've talked about it. I think a lot of it has to do obviously with Vegas, being such a great place for that, in my opinion, because It's got, I mean, all the, I mean, it's almost tailored.
Well,
It's almost tailor made for that, because we've.
but like
Mhm.
they did one here for a number of years ago, like Gloom and Doom,
Okay.
Gloom, some weird shit like that.
Really? Okay.
It is when I lived here, but I didn't know about it. I mean, that's all,
Got it.
I didn't even
Okay.
hear about it. And I just known about, Stoner Rock and Doom, for just a couple of years. And it was really lightly attended. It was way over in North Vegas. I mean, you can really fuck things up when it comes to setting up festivals. And I've heard and seen the horror stories. I've been part of one that the festival was awesome that I did. The second one, amazing. But I lost ungodly amounts of money. And not even half the people I probably thought were going to go. So, and that's in Vegas. I spent too much money, first off.
Sure.
And I know other festivals recently, same thing. And
Well,
it's brutal.
Well, I was going to ask
these
you.
are losers.
I was going to ask.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't make money.
Well, I want to ask you a question. Do you think they're losing? Because I'm looking at something like Psycho Vegas, right? And how it started off and how it morphed a few years later into something completely different. No, it's completely different, but it expanded a lot. Where it was mostly about this kind of music, and then it went in a whole different direction. Do you think a lot of times? I think this is just my hypothesis. You let me know. Is it because they bite off more than they can chew? Meaning, instead of it's sort of like, to me, it's like a don't fix it if it's not broke approach. If you've got a model that works one time really well, I think what happens a lot of times, a lot of these promoters or whoever's putting these things together, they get a little starry-eyed, like, I want it to be bigger and better next year and bigger and better the year after. And they get overzealous, in my opinion, and then it loses what it was initially was. And then, especially if you start getting then big sponsors and you start getting bigger labels and all these big, big money starts coming into it, it just ruins it. I mean, if you keep something simple year after year, I wouldn't say simple, but if you keep something within a specific realm, and like just keep it within the stoner doom thing, for instance, heavy rock feel, and you don't go into, classic rock and metal and stuff like that, I think your chances are better, because I think, the people in that scene, they want to come for that. That's why they're going. If they start seeing indie rock bands playing or death metal bands playing, they're going to know it's not the same. I'm going to go choose to spend my money or do something somewhere else. I think that's the problem. That's just my opinion. You as a promoter, I want to hear what you say. Go ahead.
If you're not living in, I would say, a go-to area where people would want to come here regardless, which is like Vegas, and maybe used to be San Francisco, who knows, and a few other spots, then you're really going to rely on your local crowd. My last Planet Desert Rock, the first show, Drunker Z, was like 70% out of state.
Wow.
At least.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was because John Garcia rarely plays, and having State come over is cool. I'm not sure how many people came because of that, and then having Nebo the next day, and I just kept the cost down. But other places, man, it's hard to talk people to going into places. Like I love the Desert Fest New York. I love the lineup. I want to go, but I stress out as soon as I start thinking about the money.
Yeah.
I'm on the West Coast. I got to fly all the way over there. So that's like $400 some bucks. And knowing New York,
it's hard to find a place to stay, dude.
Stay there.
Yeah, dude. I mean, hotels, there's none. There's like no hotels. If there are, they're usually in Manhattan, where you got to pay a fortune.
Well, there's Airbnbs. That's again when I've gotten the inside on a little bit.
But like you said, it's gonna. I mean, I've said I've done it myself. Obviously, I'm from there. When I go back there, usually I want to spend some time in the city because most of my friends and family are in the suburbs on the island. And dude, it's not easy, man. It's not easy. So I can imagine if you're just someone traveling out of state going, you're looking at that lineup going, oh man, I'm going to this, no doubt.
Yeah.
And you start doing all the math and putting it together, how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's
expensive. But the great thing is our main demographic, all the stats I know, and I follow stats because I'm in marketing and I do these kind of things, It's Generation X, meat and potatoes Generation X. It's literally like that upper 30 to mid 50. That's it. And at this point, a lot of Gen Xers make good money.
Yes, you're right.
That's the way it's supposed to be. You know, when you're middle aged, that's your, and, you know, like they announced that Power Trip lineup.
Yeah.
And so many people bitching about it. I mean, so many people complaining. But when I went to the Tesla one, and I was surrounded by Generation X, I was surrounded by like literally 47 to like 57 everywhere. And they were from all over the country. You know what I mean? Maybe even the world. And people make their vacation sometimes and package it with music.
Absolutely.
And
yes, I agree.
John's Retreat was the same thing. I met people that made a lot of money in their real life.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we talk about certain stuff and next you know, I'm like, what kind of job are you again?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I get it. Yeah. I used to be a senior director, blah, blah. And it's, thank God for them, you know, because you need the fly-in people for any of this stuff. But when you're relying on local, it's tough. Like here, there's not that big of a scene, but my second night, thank God, it was like 50% Nevada at least. So I was like, all right, that's a little better. Yeah. Cool. And we had probably 180K, you know, and it was like $20 ticket average or something.
Okay.
But like when I was at Ripple Fest, Texas, the first year, I don't remember hardly any Austin musicians there hanging out. Like almost none.
Really?
None. But they had it out in New Braunfels, which was like, you know, 40 minutes outside the city.
Okay, that's probably why.
So anyways, they've you know
changed that
since, but I was like, damn, Ryan, you know, I literally didn't see so and so and so and so and so. I mean, even the last year, I didn't see a ton of Austin people that I know that play in bands over there, you know? And so that's the tricky part is you got to get those locals, you got to get the local musicians supporting it somehow.
Sure.
You know, at the same time. I'm a massive fan of both festivals. I'm definitely going to Ripple Fest, Texas. I've done it 3 years, 2 or 3 years in a row with my best friends, Paul and Billy, that I've known since one guy I've known since like literally 4th grade.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we made a tradition. We got an Airbnb and, you know, see other parts of Austin as well on a day or two. I'd love to go to the New York one. Honestly, I really would. I haven't been to New York, God, maybe since 3 weeks before 9/11.
Oh, wow. That's a long time. Yeah.
It's a long time. And I like New York. I mean, I'm an East Coast guy. I used to go up there for work when I lived in Florida with Marriott. Stayed at the Marquee and stuff. For
nice.
$39 a night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Too bad you didn't have that for the Desert Fest. You didn't have that hookup, man.
Well, you have a Marriott there. Yeah. Desert. Take $100 Uber. But you know, I encourage people to take a chance, you know, and think about life. And if you're working and you don't use all your vacation time at the end of the year, you need to strongly reconsider what's happening in life.
Sure.
Because it's over like this. And if you don't have the work-life balance, you'll be happier having things to look forward to. Music, you know, going to shit by yourself. I got over it like 7 years ago. It took me that long.
Sure. Yeah.
But I started traveling to a few places by myself. Yeah. I went to Dallas Cowboys training camp in Oxnard.
Oh, you went to Oxnard to camp there, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I didn't stay in Oxnard. I stayed in Ventura, but
it's right next to it. Yeah. But that's cool. Yeah. But
I did it by myself. I'm like, I don't know how long I'm going to be out west.
Well, you're right. I mean, like you said, you know, listen, and you're right about, you know, the demographics, you know, like me personally. Yeah. I mean, I set aside a lot of my savings for this stuff. I mean, listen, even a Heavy Psych Sounds Fest. Okay. Yeah. I'm here in Oakland, you know, right outside of Oakland. It's just right over here across the bay. But I spent a lot of money. I mean, the 2-day ticket was $150. Not cheap. You know what I mean? That's just to see underground bands. And obviously, to me, those are the bands I am really
Yeah,
into.
but that's a good deal, though.
You know,
75 for a whole day each. That's
yeah. Well, with taxes, about 160. You know, $80. So I mean, you know, but once again,
then you're drinking like a bitch.
you're like the good thing they did do that I was really happy about was price wise, the drinks were not expensive at the bar, which is what I'm very happy about because it then allowed me to what I want to do, which is obviously support the bands and buy merch and stuff, which I bought a bunch of.
Yeah.
But then you make a day of it, right? You're going out to eat, and whatever it is, it all adds up. But once again, I mean, this is what I save my money for. But I think if you're not someone who's passionate as we are about music, you're not going to take a trip down to Austin to probably see Ripple Fest. You know what I mean? Like you said, that's when you got to rely on at least those local musicians to drive the main, I guess, attendance. And then, of course, if you can get 30-40% maybe of the people coming from out, then you're going to wind up doing good. Now, my thing is, once again, like I said, I just feel like some of these festivals are just getting too big. I think it's one of the things about Heavy Psych Sounds Fest. It's not getting that big. That's what I like about it. It's almost like a good, perfect size level. You've got some really good old, veteran bands that are kind of headlining, but you also got a lot of these newer, bands like the Heavy Death Cults and so forth that are also really. So you're bringing in the old and the new. It's great. You got a lot of the younger fans coming. You got a lot of older guys like us going, which is great. Now, one of the things I think the scene that does it right, we've talked about this obviously a lot, the scene is the San Diego scene. I love what they do down there. The one thing I want to get to this year is, I was watching it on the live stream last year. I know you went to it, was the SoCal Heavy Jam down there.
Of course.
And to me, that's like a perfect type of a local scene to me, a local, festival is something like that. You know what I mean? Do one day festival like that. You get mostly, bands, locally. And it was great because it was sort of you had some sludge bands, you had the heavy rock bands. It was just a nice blend, a mix. It looked like it was such a good vibe. And I really just like what they're doing in San Diego. The scene down there, and I know obviously, like I said, you're really in tune and friends with a lot of those bands, and talk about that scene a little bit because I wanted the listeners to they need to know what's going on down there with Formula 400 and Mazzo and all these bands.
Yeah, that's I've been a fan of that scene for a good while because I think that San Diego and Austin have the best heavy psych scenes of any cities in this country. Like, there are heavy psych stuff, like heavy psych as in like, one time Radio Moscow was out of there. Sacramonti's out of there. Drug Hunt, which used to be called something else, is from out of there. Earthless is from out of there. And there's Monarch.
Monarch, that's right.
Song. People, you got to check it out. I had them play a show, Sacramoni play a show. And then you have this other really good, heavier rock as well. I mean, even Mezua was introduced to me. I'll never forget when Kip Page of Formula 400, before Formula 400 was banned officially, he sent me over Mezua, and I look him up and he had like 30 fans. I'm like, oh my God, this is really. But I still listen, and I was like, holy shit, this is great. And that's Nacho Maldonado, great guy, very good writer. Like, he writes good lyrics and songs and stuff, stories, great vibe live, good peeps. And known Kip for a while, and Formula 400 is, really has some outstanding stuff going on. For their debut album, I mean,
great.
I mean, Light My Way.
Great song.
Literally, they run an ad where it's put out, to millions.
I see it. Yeah.
And it's consistently people loving it.
It's a great song, man. It's a great song.
I mean, literally, because all these people hear it and they're like, holy shit, why is there music like this on the radio? Why do I not know this? What the fuck? There's people literally saying shit like, you're going to single-handedly help save rock and roll.
Well,
most insane things. I'm monitoring the ads, and I'm going, wow. I mean, in WITCHSKULL, people go fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
And so Formula 400 has that cool, two guitar approach, harmony, vocals, and guitar. And they're really doing good over there. God, I mean, we could go on and
Oh yeah,
on,
yeah.
Sandy. I feel like I'm supposed to say someone I've got, like Desert Sons is from out of over there.
That's right.
Been in a stoner rock band for quite a while. They have
Yeah.
Jason now on vocals. Also, Jason's in a band called Sea of Snakes.
Oh, that's great.
San Diego, LA.
LA, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but he sings, so he's from San Diego.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, yeah. What about you? What about you? Have you gone to a show in San Diego yet?
Well, I mean, I used to live in San Diego, when I first moved out from when I moved from New York, I lived in San Diego for 4 years,
Where'd you live?
A bunch of places. The first place I lived, which is probably where it was one of those places where I didn't want to tell anyone about it because I didn't want anyone showing up there. It was Pacific Beach, PB. I mean,
I love that place.
Oh, listen, when you're a 22-year-old kid, which I was when I moved there, there's nothing better. I mean, you coming from New York, I was like, New York,
wow.
Fuck this place, man. I am out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was me and my buddy moved there, and I didn't look back. And the only reason why I left really San Diego was just because I was, working in the music business. I worked at a couple labels. I get a job at this it's a label and a documentary company called Shout Factory, who used to the guys who own it used to own Rhino Records. There was his brothers. So, that's the only reason why I moved there, because like I said, I was working in the industry, and there was really nothing down in San Diego. I interned at this company down there, Surf Dog Records, for a little while. But that's like a small label down there, but there wasn't much going on. It's one of those things. It's funny. Before I left, I remember a friend of a friend was telling me, like, dude, because people, if you've ever been to, if you know Southern California, the way the way it is between San Diego and LA. I mean, San Diego does not like LA very much. And, let's just put it that way. And they were like, dude, man, why are you going to LA, man? Like, dude, why don't you start, because I started a label up in LA too, called No Joke Records. I had for about 4 or 5 years. And like, dude, I mean, San Diego can use it down here, but my whole thing was at that time. And I've interviewed, Nacho from Mesua before. I talked to him, and I've talked to him about, I said, when I was down there, I mean, there was not really much heavy rock. It was mostly like this band Sprung Monkey. I don't know if you remember those guys at all. Yeah, Sprung Monkey. There was obviously POD was big. It was more that punk reggae stuff. Slightly Stupid. Obviously, they're a big band out of there. So it wasn't, they used to have that great, I don't know if they still have it, but, in downtown San Diego, called the San Diego Street Scene, which is really cool. They close off all downtown, have all these stages all over the city. Great. I mean, I've seen a couple of them. They were fantastic, but it was more punk. It was more reggae. It wasn't really, and back then I was more into metal. So there wasn't a great metal scene. There wasn't really a great heavy rock scene. So, that was the other thing too. I just didn't really see a lot of bands down there that I was interested in signing at the time. I really think it was shortly after that. Rocket from the Crypt, that was probably one of the bigger sort of, heavy rock bands, if you want to call them heavy rock, but they were more punk. But it really, to me, wasn't until around, early to mid 2000s when Earthless, started up. To me personally, I think that was the band that really kickstarted people looking into San Diego. And that's where, obviously, like you said, Sacramento, all these heavy psych bands were just pouring out of there. Harsh Toke, I believe, is from there too. So that was another, psych band. So, I mean, there's,
Birth is from there. Birth is like a psych progressive band. One album out last year, good debut. And it features a bunch of the dudes from the other bands we just talked about.
Okay, perfect. Beautiful.
Yeah, like Ad Astra was like a psychedelic band that came out of there. One of the guys came from that. Another band, I just had it. Dude, San Diego is
it's great now.
With these bands, but, it's different times of our life. The information flows different, and we're clued in or interested in. And so it's just the way it works sometimes. But right now, it's they have a good variety of styles of rock coming out of there, just as Austin does.
You're right.
So that's super cool, man. Yeah. I mean, Philadelphia. I mean, that's a pretty chunky amount of pretty good bands from that city.
Some great bands coming out of there. Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just great to see U.S. heavy rock scene. It is burgeoning from coast to coast. I mean, like you said, we're seeing it in all parts of the country. I mean, I know that I think I saw something too. There's a Doomed and Stone festivals in the Midwest, I
Yeah,
believe.
that's been going on.
Right, that's been going on for a while, right? Wisconsin and Ohio, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. They did one in Wisconsin recently. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it really is. This music is back in, and like we were saying, you know, obviously, like you talk about Generation X, you know, it just like anything we saw 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? We saw the whole nostalgic period for the 80s stuff, you know, when you had that metal show and you had Eddie Trunk stuff, the VH1 classic, right?
Yeah.
That was all about the 80s nostalgia. Now it's the 90s turn, and the 90s that's where heavy rock was born out of. And so that's what we're seeing. And I'm loving it, man. Like I said, this is just great, just a great time right now, I think, for rock and heavy, you know, music in general. And so speaking of San Diego, let's go ahead and speaking of the band we just talked about, Formula 400, talking about that great song, Light My Way. We're going to go ahead and play that video now for everybody, for people who haven't seen it or heard the song. Great song, Formula 400, Light My Way. I know they've got a new album. I think that's on the horizon, correct, John? I know they got a new single out there, Whiskey Bent, too, which is a really good song.
And the album, I believe, should be out. It will be out by the end of the year. Probably sooner rather than later, we'll say.
Fantastic. All right. Well,
Diviniations. I think it's called Divination.
Divination. Okay, perfect. That's right. Great. Well, let's go ahead. Let's play. Let's play the track off of Heathens, the first record. This is Light My Way here on the Heavy Galaxy Show. All right, the Heavy Galaxy Show. We're back here. That was Formula 400, Light My Way, off their great record, Heathens. Like I said, great band out of San Diego. Can't wait to hear that new record. Everyone just keep an eye out for that. That is one of those bands you do not want to miss, especially that new record that's coming out. I mean, that's I think going to be amazing. So, John, let's go ahead, man. I guess we're getting ready to wrap this up. Before we go, though, once again, just want to remind everybody, HeavyGalaxy.com is launching, and go ahead and check that out. It's up now, and like I said, it's a one-stop hub for all things heavy rock. So go ahead and check that out. Of course, you can get our shows on there as well from here, or obviously you can get them everywhere. They're available on all podcast platforms, and obviously on YouTube, Rumble, Amazon TV, Fire, and Roku TV as well. John, so before we wrap it up, man, what's going on with you? You got anything going on with Dude and Stone, Vegas Rock Revolution? Just keep everyone up to date with what's going on with you outside of Heavy Galaxy.
No live shows going on here in Vegas. I had a 421 I was going to put together, but just kind of fell apart a little bit. And I'm like, all right, So really no live shows. There may be something happening in the fall, which would be a really good pairing. So we'll look at it, but man, got coming up here, number of shows to check out and all that. Also, of course, I've been a little busy with Rock is Dead, the Guest List podcast, which is only on Spotify. So check it out if you got an hour of time and you want to hear mainly music.
Yeah.
And, Doom and Stone, we're probably due to put another one out. We pretty much only do Doom and Stone monthly now and do a Doom charts countdown. So I don't even know. Have you seen who number one is yet?
I believe as we're doing this right now, I think tomorrow is when they're going to release it. I believe, right? The Doom charts, if I'm correct.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Sometimes we get the inside, and so man. Other than that, just listen to a lot of tunes and doing a bunch of stuff. And God, what do I have for a big thing? I mean, I'm planning on Ripple Fest. It seems like I might venture out somewhere this summer, but we'll see.
All right, fantastic.
We'll see. But anyone that's coming to Vegas, you let me know. I can at least let you know what shows could be happening here in town. Like last weekend, I saw a Puddle of Mud.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Next night, Last in Line.
Wow.
Where
Very cool.
Mike Barney took me. Mike Barney from Triton Records.
Sure.
Put me as his +1. Told me that a few times. I'm like, all right, cool. And, hanging out with like Danny Coker and Sebastian Bach from Skid Row and Danny Coker from Counting Cars and Paul Sortino and Blando from Slaughter. And it's a bizarre little world. And we're, watching Vivian Campbell, one of my favorite guitarists ever.
Oh, yeah.
For Last in Line up there, former Dio. And also Def Leppard, but whatever.
Yeah. He's Dio.
And Vinny Appice still banging the shit out of his drums after all these years. Phil Soussan, wrote Shot in the Dark for Ozzy.
Ozzy,
playing bass. And a really good singer, Andrew Freeman, local guy, excellent rock singer. It was fun and good times. It's rare I get to the Hard Rock Cafe, and that's where the show was.
Oh, wow.
And
that's a cool place.
We're like literally cross, like the stage and us were on the same thing. So we're watching from the side almost in comfy couches and standing up and drinking way too much. And, oh my God. Ended up at the Golden Tiki with a shit ton of all these people till 4 a.m. No drugs, just drinking and maybe a little hit of marijuana. That's it.
Wow. Hey, that's impressive.
Morning, Matt.
That's impressive.
4 a.m.
It's impressive that a 54-year-old can stay up to 4 to 1 without drugs. That's impressive.
Exactly. I did get one Red Bull vodka. I did get one Red Bull vodka, which I would start my nights up. It was when it already been drinking for like an hour and a half. I was like, oh man, I've been sitting down for a while and it's kind of getting a little tired. And I'm like, all right, I need to pick me up, which back in the day would be something else. And I'm like, they ordered from like the Ukrainian waitress. I'm like, how much Red Bull vodka? And then she kind of ran me around in circles for a little bit. And then finally we came to what they decided it was. And it was not cheap, but I'm like, I need it. And It actually ran into that douchebag again, but Nothing
Oh
happened.
man, yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
But whatever. I believe in peace and love, man. So stayed out of my
Yes.
ear this time. But
It-
we only live once, and maybe I'm speeding up the process. I don't know.
well, no,
Because nothing's guaranteed. Like
no,
nothing's guaranteed.
no, you're right, man. I mean, you haven't, and then that's like you said, that's what we got to do. Is if I mean, you don't know when things are what's gonna happen, so you got to enjoy it while you can, man, and especially because there's so much good stuff out right now, and especially after 2+ years of the pandemic shit with live show, I mean, tours getting canceled and
We were a little more active here than you guys.
yeah, no,
Okay.
yes, you were. Obviously,
Yeah.
here we were really shut down, which is why the Bay Area's had a really tough time recovering and getting this scene going again because a lot of the clubs shut down.
Yeah.
And so it's it's getting back finally here too. Obviously it's getting a lot better, but I you're right. I only think after a couple of years without going to shows or going to maybe one or two. I think I went to 2 shows over the pandemic. It's and I didn't do any of the shows, with the mask and stuff. I couldn't sit there with a mask on and take it off and drink and put it back. I just refused to do it. So I decided not to go and wait till things just got better with that. And so anyway, we're here. Like I said, it is great to see though. I mean, just all these festivals and shows and just live music just out there now and just I mean it's great to see it's back in full
Someone
force.
gave me an analogy of I'm not getting political here, and someone gave me an analogy about masks, and they go, listen, you see how thin that fucking mask are? I said, guess what, if I go drop a big deuce like a fucking fart, look how thick my jeans are and you still smell it.
Yeah, I know, right?
So
That's a good point.
Everyone can smell it. And even with a fucking mask on, you can be able to smell that.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
I was like, that's such an interesting way of putting it.
Interesting way of thinking and looking at it. Absolutely,
it stuck with me. Yeah.
Cool,
and I got COVID early, so
yeah,
I don't give a fucking.
Yeah, I got it too. It was bad, but whatever. COVID's schmovid, it's done. We're back to business with live music.
It's rock and roll.
It is. And speaking of rock and roll, we're gonna finish things off here with one last song and video. This is something different, man. I mean, this is something that you're the one that got me into this band, man. Villagers of IOANNINA City out of Greece. Great heavy
little
village.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Out of a little village. And their original work was like a lot of in their native tongue. Mm-hmm. But this Age of Aquarius thing was in English, and like they went whole next level with every single thing possible. Now, I'll say this. People want to hear something original. This is a band.
This is pretty original. Yeah, I agree.
And man, I play it for Uber riders all the time and Lyft, for the drivers. A lot of times to just get them to relax because it's a little bit more reggae, and it's just fucking, it's just mind blowing. And of course, if you like to smoke a little and you have those headphones on and you just really focus and listen and let yourself in, I mean,
pretty awesome stuff.
They're talking stories there, man. They're painting pictures with words first off, which is very difficult, I think, and then putting it with music together. This is what makes me revel so much in musicians, is when they're able to do those kind of things. It just is like, whoa. And I'm forever jealous, and I'm not a musician, never going to be. All I can do is sing in the shower, but I admire the shit out of ones that really do some amazing stuff and have entertained and made our lives better for years and years. And that's part of why you and me, we're in this together, is because we believe in just really good music and the people who do it.
Absolutely.
And support it. Yeah.
And you're right. And that's the important thing is the people who do it, and support it. That is an important thing, because exactly, if there wasn't these people that did it and a supporter weren't good people, well, we wouldn't be there. I think I've mentioned a little bit before, I've been in scenes, over the years, with my label and just growing up in New York, and, the hardcore scene is just one example. Met a lot of great people in it, don't get me wrong, but not like what we see, I think, these days within this heavy rock scene. One thing I really enjoy is just everybody, including the musicians. There's not a lot of egos. There's none of the, everyone's just mature now. They're growing up and they just want to have a good time and they want to be around good people,
Right.
bands, fans, everybody. And you really get that almost everywhere I go these days within the scene. And so it's, and it doesn't matter where it is too, which city, state, it doesn't matter. It's everywhere. And it's just such a great thing to be a part of. And it's, like you said, it's one of the reasons why we do this and we're going to continue to do it. And yeah. So with that being said, let's wrap this up. So here's Villagers of IOANNINA. Is it IOANNINA or IOANNINA? We'll go to IOANNINA.
The first one. IOANNINA City.
Okay, IOANNINA. IOANNINA. There we go. All right. Villagers of IOANNINA City.
Have them on and we'll have the singer on and let's hear what he fucking has to say.
Yeah. No, you're right. Because that's one of the things we do want to do. We do want to focus on specific scenes globally too. Not just here in America, obviously, globally. Greece is one of those. I mean, like I said, we could do 5 segments on Greece. We will definitely do a Greece show because that is one of my favorite spots in the world right now for music. It has been for a good 10 years or so. So yeah, absolutely.
That's actually a dream of mine. That's a bucket list spot. It used to be the Greek Isles, but obviously I have to go to Athens.
I've been there.
It's
amazing, dude. I've been there. It's amazing.
And I'll keep my wallet in my front pocket.
Yeah, well, just make sure you get that douchebag guy away from you, and he doesn't go take your money out of your front pocket there, while he's hugging you 1 minute and telling you you got to leave town the next minute.
How many people get in my front pocket? Yeah. Good thing. Right. But hey, man, it was so good to hang out and talk. Appreciate it, and it's great to see a lift, on all the various platforms, folks checking it out, and we appreciate you folks checking it out and spread the word. And it's easy access because we're on everything.
We're out everywhere. We're everywhere. Absolutely, I agree with you. Thanks to everyone who's been supporting it and listening it. And obviously, we just want to keep doing our part to keep this thing going. So, all right, well, great. We'll see everyone next time on the Heavy Galaxy Show for another episode. And here we go. We're going to wrap it up as we said. Villagers of IOANNINA City, his father's son. See you guys next show.
To the water crystal clear. I am the holy river, rises from the